Her sin, unknown. Her punishment, rot. An Empyrean of noble stature, born with the right to one day achieve godhood. But how can one become a god if every step took meant the infliction of a greater wound and the shedding of a limb, waking up in one's own flesh and decay? A decay that would bring rot to even the life around it. This was no life for the divine, the constant rinsing of one's own vessel, to only be refitted with a greater filth. She would lie and be consumed, if it wasn't for her will, a will to protect her own. A twin, cursed with eternal youth, a being of divinity and mercy, and would be the one to unravel a false order. Miquella, the kind, the child of Queen Mareka, the eternal. Within the height of Queen Mareka's reign, a witch of a distant land would arise a plot that would bring Slay to a perfect being, Godwyn the Golden. Within the midst of this great chaos, the rot that had ravaged Malenia for so long had begun to seep into the marrows of her limbs, immobilizing her and perhaps giving her an earlier burial than thine thoughts. The burden of protection had now fallen to Miquella, as it had now become his sole duty to find an end to this rot. In the discardment of one's faith and practices, a needle was to be forged, a needle that would put the disease to a hold and suffering to the reduction. Unalloyed armor would be provided by her dearest and would be replaced onto what had rotted. With the shattering in full commence, the two would voyage off to a distant land to forge a new path. A path in which no life was left unnurtured, an equal opportunity for all. An opportunity for those who were forsaken. They shall bear witness to what they did not allow. For they seeked perfection, did they not? Miquella would now lay himself into a barrow, giving seed to a haven for his followers and those alike. Within the depths of this haven is where he would lie. Unfortunately, within the depths is where a forsaken one would also arise. With Miquella now left into a cocoon, providing nourishment to their new home, the burden of protection had now fallen to Malenia. She would conduct trainings night and day alongside a skilled swordsman, a swordsman that possessed great knowledge about her sickness, and had danced with death to fight off combatants of godly traits. Blade after blade, the very air she breathed, was turned to her final source of strength, a strength that would be much needed for a great battle. A battle that was not sought, but that had become a necessity, to bring of an age of much-needed cleansing. This was not to be known as no ordinary battle. This was to be a battle for those who wished to have become gods. The two armies fought with great resilience, falling and arising once more. Within days the dunes were amassed with hues of gold, a sea of dismembered companions, leaving only the great conqueror of the stars and the goddess of love. In carving out her pride, followed by a leap of faith, both would be impaled by the unalloyed blade. For even when the skies began to fall, the severed one possessed a will so strong that even in death she would arise once more, dispersing a blossom of misery upon the land and the two gods. Clean-wrought knight of great nobility, who was among the few still left standing, would retrieve the severely maimed Malenia back to the roots of the Haligtree, where she would be met with an even greater devastation. It had seemeth, Miquella had been stripped away from the roots of the Haligtree, as the great war was amidst. No evidence of where he had gone. This heartache would lead Malenia into a great slumber, for no more wars were worth fighting until she could feel the warmth of her dearest once more. She would lie in this slumber for an eternity, if it wasn't for the one being reborn. The one being reborn amongst the chaos, and the one that would eventually wake the goddess of rot from her slumber.
Don't worry, Torrent. Fortune is on her side. We found her here after all. One of her kind is sure to seek the Elden Ring.
Heed my words.
I have never known defeat.